I'm going to run through this presentation and then we'll have more time for questions and answers. My name is Jerome Cho. I work for KDI. We're one of the consultants working on this project. And this is Daniel Rate, who works for the Parks Department. Just a quick announcement also, after this presentation ends, this is an open house style event, so you should feel free to move around the room. We have activities at all four corners, including dinner for anyone who's hungry. But I'll just move through this quickly. So I want to answer your question directly, which is we also have concerns about noise from our neighbors at Rose Hill Cemetery. So there's not going to be loud noises or big concerts or things like that. We heard that loud and clear from folks that that's not something we want. But let me just talk a little bit about the process to get to this workshop, to talk about a name for the park. Really quickly, has anyone else been part of any meetings or workshops or events related to the landfill turning into a park? Show of hands. Okay, so a couple folks. And then for the rest of you, is this the first time that you're hearing about the landfill turning into a park, or the first time that you're participating in a meeting? Raise your hand if this is the first time. Okay, great. Okay, so you all may know the landfill closed back in 2013, and the county has been working to transform it into a park ever since then. And a couple years ago, they finished a more than a year-long process to create a concept plan. That's what this woman was referring to. A lot of meetings over the course of more than a year for people to share their ideas and their vision for what the park should be. I'm just going to show you some of the images from that. More than 1,300 people participated in that process. And there were all kinds of different ways that people shared their ideas. There were workshops like this one. There were a lot of hikes and bike tours that brought people up to Nike Hill, where you're right next to the park and it feels like you're inside a future park. There were small group sessions focused on nature and how people get to the park and around the park. There was a lot of work with young people, including a group of youth from the area who were hired by the county to participate in sessions to learn about design and planning, and to also share their ideas for what they thought should go in the park. This is just a handful of the important feedback, comments that we got from people. And the main consultant studio in LA, their landscape architecture firm, they turned all of those ideas into this concept plan. So I know this is a little hard to see, but I'll take you through some of the specifics. But basically, it's a big park. It's going to be 140 acres. So there's a lot of room for a lot of different kinds of activities for folks and different kinds of spaces. This is a really quick diagram that shows the different areas of the park. And then the different kinds of spaces and activities. So, of course, if you have been to this site before, or if you've seen it from afar, you know it's pretty high up at the peak. And there's incredible views of the entire region and beyond. So there will be this overlook area where you can go and gather and also see some of those views. There'll be miles of trails where you can explore nature, get exercise. There'll be big open fields and meadows for hanging out or for activities like you see here, flying kites. There'll be a lot of educational opportunities to learn about ecology, to learn about the history of the site. And there'll be areas for reflection and celebration and ceremony. These are all just views of what it could be like. As each of these spaces gets closer to being open, there'll be additional meetings for you all to share feedback. And then If you have been there, you know that the site is already, some parts of it feel really lush, almost like a forest. The county will also be adding a lot of new plants, native plants, plants that are climate resistant, tolerant of droughts and heat waves. Flowering plants, small trees, things that don't interfere with the landfill itself. Okay, so that's a really quick overview. We try to keep this short because we know there's lots of other stuff we'll do. Why don't we stop here and take more questions about the landfill park, and then I'll come back and tell you a little bit more about the different stations around the room today. So any other questions about the landfill park, and Daniel here, or I, or other folks in the team can try to answer.
Thank you. Actually, I was thinking, are we going to have like park rangers or something for safety reasons located within that vicinity? Also, I'm sure we're going to have wildlife moving in. How safe is it if we have children? I don't know if we have any mountains. I know I've seen deer and raccoons and so forth, but I'm trying to think safety precautions. Will there be somebody stationed, God forbid, we need an emergency?
But we have staff here from our natural areas who will be part of the operation of the facility.
Hi, my name is Noemi. I am the Natural Areas Administrator for Valley County Parks and Recreation, so I oversee the nature centers that we currently have in Valley County Parks and Rec. And today with me I have our Regional Operational Manager, that is my supervisor, that's going to also oversee Fun Landfill, but she used to be the Natural Areas Administrator. So we are very familiar with what you're speaking about, and those are things that we already have indicated in our facilities that we have now, so we'll be moving forward with the same structure. And this site will have a superintendent that is also a fish and game warden for that specific, and we are very big, and that's why the natives and all of that is going on, because we do protect wildlife that we have, but we also want to give education and knowledge of why it's important for the protection and the safety for our patrons. So that will be a key aspect embedded within the building itself.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? And for those of you that are here for the first time, or kind of maybe first hearing about it, and for folks who have been following along but not too intensely, the park itself, so we've actually started construction on the Environmental Justice Center, which is the building that was originally supposed to be a visitor center. That vision kind of had expanded. That's currently what is under construction at what is the main entrance of the park. So if you're familiar with the landfill, you enter off Crossroads Parkway. Back when the landfill was in operation, there was a sanitation district operation, the maintenance building, followed by the weigh stations, where you would first weigh your load and then take it up to the landfill, drop it off, and come back, get weighed, pay the fee, and off you went. So that area, that main entrance area there, is now being converted to the main entrance of the park. So the park itself, what we're primarily looking at building within the next several years is the western deck, which is pictured here. So this is roughly 40 acres of the 140 acres of the total park. So this will be the first phase of the park. This will be done likely before the beginning of 2030. But the Environmental Justice Center is already on track to be completed by November of next year.
In the original conceptual plan, I recall that in the first 3 or 4 pages, it indicated that there would be a tribute to the Gabrielino Quiche Indians at the entrance or somewhere along the park trails.
So that likely could have been from the master plan. However, since that was before the Environmental Justice Center was envisioned, so any sort of connections to the indigenous people of the San Gabriel Valley, and particularly of the Puente Hills, will be addressed within the Environmental Justice Center. So currently, our consultants that are working on the exhibitions for that building have been in contact with local tribes and are basically discussing with them what kind of content is going to be presented and having them sort of review and vet the content.
Hi, good evening. Can you show us a visual of the timeline, just to show us where we're at? Or can you, I know I asked a lady and she was kind enough to share that with me, but just so everyone is as aware of the actual timeline. I know you mentioned something in 2030, but what's happening next year and the year after that? What are we looking at? How early can we take part and enjoy what's happening?
So I know we don't have a slide of the timeline. I can describe it to you. So basically, like I mentioned, the Environmental Justice Center is under construction, and the building plus an operations yard and a small park area are all part of the entry plaza. That work is looking to be completed in November of next year. During the course of that work next year, Public Works, who is delivering this project for us, will continue work on the design for this portion of the park, and we're looking to have construction of that starting sometime in 2028 with a completion by approximately the end of 2029. Some of that is sort of tied to existing funding and budgets, but that is currently the plan. Thank you.
Has the county considered maybe doing partnerships with Rio Hondo College, I think that the Puente Unified School District, Whittier, Bassett? I think it would be a good idea for everybody to kind of put together, and I'm sure it will be a lot more successful. So we can bring in educational programs, and I know that's in the plans, but you can also bring in resources.
So 100%. We've already been engaged with Rio Hondo College since the very beginning, same with the Hacienda Unified School District. The Environmental Justice Center will feature classrooms, auditoriums, makerspace, and studios for visual and audio development, all key to basically bringing in schools. So for field trips. That park itself that I mentioned next to the Environmental Justice Center will have several picnic areas for kids that are on field trips. So the main goal for the center itself is to be a destination for schools, and then the Justice Center part of it is tied to the exhibition hall, which will primarily discuss the impacts that not only just this landfill, but landfills in general have on communities, and kind of educate sort of the trash cycle and inform people what happens when they throw something in the dumpster, like what process does it go through, how much trash is generated, things along those lines. In addition to the natural components, and one of the main things that visitors will first see there is sort of an introduction to being on the landfill and kind of what to expect, sort of information on what all those pipes do and what, landfill safety and things like that to kind of help, people not worry about being on a landfill.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, so we are here tonight to work on the park's name. Show of hands, has anyone here ever helped name a park before? Raise your hand if you've done that. Okay. Oh, yes.
Well, some of us in this community did, as my husband said, and I know I submitted mine through the computer, and he has his right now on a letter. But a few years back, or a couple of years ago, we were asked to submit a name. So where did those names go to?
Yeah, those are all part of the mix now. This effort is really trying to reach a broader group of people, because that activity came at the very end of a very long and involved participatory process. We have all the names that people suggested, and then we started a new round of engagement to share with people the opportunity to also give their ideas for the names. And here's what's